Hello, everybody. It is Monday, the 19th of January. Before I start, to those that follow my channel, my videos will not be as frequent as they used to be. I don't think I can do it because right now I'm working 6 days a week and I have to hold down 2 jobs, and I'm really in full survival mode here. So I don't know how often I will be able to make a video, but I'll try. Now, again, today I want to talk about the secret societies like the Freemasons. I want to talk about their structure and about the founding of America, which was obviously done by secret societies. And really, if we want to go forward into a spiritual future where this knowledge re-emerges into this world, we really need to think about 2 things. One is the foundational thought of what it is we are and what it is we're in, and we need to think about the structure that such a thing would take. Yeah, really bring it down to earth, get out of the clouds, talking about other dimensional beings and stuff. This is supposed to create a world, so you have to be little bit more practical about the whole thing. Yeah, it will take a solid form. So think about that. So the first thing is what I talked about before, the foundational thought of what it is we are and we are in, and that is moving away from the idea of the one false creator being that created everything, which was very much the Gnostic thought, and that being imprisoning everything else. What is false about it is that such a being actually exists. There is no being that is all-knowing, omnipresent, omnipotent. It doesn't exist. Not in the created. And then go back to the original thought that was in this world at the time of the mystery schools, the other thought, which was that, first of all, the all cannot be known. It is the inconceivable one, the unfathomable one, the one that is beyond consciousness. Everybody was agreed on that. From east to west, they all said the same thing. The all cannot be known. Only in parts, and the knowledge is in the part. So we're going back to the understanding that we are in the all is in all, but nothing, no individual part is the all. It's a bit of a mind twister, but if you think about it for a few minutes, it makes actually perfect sense. So if we're going back to that foundation in a unified world, that foundation was all over the world. Yeah, as I said, from east to west, they all thought the same thing. Until Christianity and the false creator God went on the rampage to destroy that knowledge. So that is the foundation, as in the spiritual thought of what it is we are and what it is we're in, and then we all must be the same for there to be a united thing in humanity to go forward. But the structure, because it needs to take a structure, it needs to do works in this world. Again, we need to be a lot more practical about this. It's not just, oh, I'm all the way out there. It's supposed to work something in this world. So I want to talk about the structure that was in the, that I can see was in, I think still is, in most secret societies. And I say, I think it is, I heard things in the Kabbalah, I heard things, the degrees in Freemasonry. It is a bit like magic eye. Yeah, if you look at something that seems just a random pattern, and until you stare at it long enough, something emerges from it, a picture emerges from it. So that's what I've been doing. I've been staring at this thing forever. So the degrees in Freemasonry and in the Kabbalah as well, in other secret societies, and how the knowledge is being passed on. Now, and the original Freemasons that founded America versus what is there now, what I think is there now. There might be still some pure Freemasons, but I think they're few and far between by the looks of it. Right. So the old system, and it was a caste system of those that are born into the ancient bloodlines. Yeah? That system is still in this world as well. And I think that is what has corrupted the occult societies, that thought. Which is, you are born to rule. You are born to have that knowledge. And in fact, anybody who is born into a lower family is not capable of handling that knowledge. Yeah? They're just born lowly, and you cannot give it to them, they can't take it. Yeah? You cannot take the truth. You're born a peasant. Anyway, that obviously went wrong. That has been going wrong forever, because just because you're born into a family does not mean that you are a person of intelligence even. I mean, I'm sorry, if you see some of our esteemed leaders that come from long-running families, intelligence is not really there anymore. They kind of managed to breed it out. So it does not mean it's a person of intelligence or integrity or high moral standing. Because in order to work this correctly, you would have to be that. Yeah? Because whatever corruption is in you, it is the corruption in them that manifests outside. So just because you're born into a big family, a high-standing family, does not mean you are a person of intelligence, integrity, or high morals. Obviously not. We've seen this in this world over and over again. And it was really the teaching of Jesus, the knowledge that he brought, one of the knowledges that he brought to the temple that they really didn't want to hear, was that even a fisherman could be more suitable for having the knowledge and working the knowledge than somebody who was born into the priestly caste. That is what Jesus clearly showed. It has nothing to do with, what state you were born in. It is what is within you that counts. And it could be better in a fisherman than in a priest. So that is what he clearly showed. And when he said, well, the knowledge should be given to all, he did not actually initiate everybody into the highest knowledge. He had 12 around him that knew, or kind of knew. I think they were kind of half-cocked. Jesus left far too early on his little trip. He left a bit of a mess behind. I say, if you have knowledge that you think it should be in this world, then you should live for it, not die for it. Anyway, martyrdom is really not the way forward. Still, so I've digressed. Yeah, he had only 12 around him that were really initiated into the knowledge. To the rest of them he spoke in parables. Yeah, and he said each will take it according to his own understanding, to the knowledge, to the level that he is in, and that is actually a very good way of doing it when you think about it. Because a lot of them would take it and walk away. It is the parable of the sower. The sword is taken in different ways. Some might just walk away. Some are joyful for a while, and then, when the heat is on, they forget about it. And some it will fall on fertile ground, and that is exactly what he was looking for. Those where the seed fell on fertile ground. And that is to say, they thought about it. Again, they engaged their brains. They had questions and they came back with questions, and that is how you would know a true student. Somebody who's really willing to go into this because he had questions about it. It's a good system. And again, something that maybe we should think about if we are building a structure, if we are rebuilding the old mystery schools. Maybe go the way of Jesus, yeah? Teach in parables, and only those that actually have real questions about it are being then led into the schools. So, and I think now, okay, so Jesus, that is the new thought that Jesus brought, away from the old bloodlines, yeah? Away from the priestly caste, the priestly tribe. It was a tribe in Judea at that time, wasn't it? It was the Levites. It was working by tribes still. You're born a Levi does not mean you're actually suitable for the job. So I think when the Freemasons from the start, any secret society like the Freemasons, from the start worked that system. Yeah, it did not depend on your birth. It depended on whether you were suitable to enter into the mysteries. And it is really, the degrees are then, how far do you go into the mysteries? And it is, I know it still is in the Kabbalah, and I would say it is probably in other societies as well, that only those that are on the same level can freely speak to each other about what it is they know. Why? I don't think it is so much compartmentalization of knowledge in that system. It is in another, I will show you that in a minute, but it is just not to influence somebody who's lower down. Because in the end, what you have is individuality. It is knowledge come out of self, and it is complete diversity and individuality. And I think they were trying to preserve that. So if you, again, if you give of your knowledge to somebody lower down, straight up, you're actually preaching. Yeah, you're preaching and you're creating that person. And they weren't doing that. They were not preaching. They were trying to encourage the knowledge of self to come out, the divinity within to come out, and that would have been individual divinity. And that is why only those that are on the same level can talk to one another, because they cannot influence one another one way or up. They're all speaking on the same level. And then you can rise from that level to the next and speak to those. Again, I think that is a good system, because we want to get away from preaching and from influencing, but bringing out the divinity within, which is individual divinity. And I think for many it worked. When you see what came out of Freemasonry earlier on, I said before, the likes of Isaac Newton, or the likes of a Mozart, where their divinity expressed itself in a very individual way, and I think that's what they were looking for. And to achieve that, the individual has to flourish, has to be free. The individual has to be free to express its own divinity, or to express the divinity through its individual self. So at the founding of America, and I've just heard John St. Julian saying, well, they were the thinking of the old bloodlines, and I don't think they were. I think that was the big shift. They went the way of Jesus, saying, it's in all. Now, the fact that the founding fathers came from probably affluent families, it was according to the times. Yeah? They were the ones that were educated enough to pull this off. But once they had or tried to pull it off, they then created an education system in which everybody had a chance. Yeah? But I mean, at the start, it would have been them because they were the ones that had the wherewithal to do it. There was no great education in the working in the working classes. But that is, they did not want to be the rulers, but they wanted freedom for all, the freedom to achieve your own greatness, and that given to all, even to the working classes. And for that, the education system was given so they had a foundation to go from. So that was actually totally going away from the old feudal, from the old bloodline system. They were trying to get away from that. But I think the old bloodlines came back in, they always do. Whatever is being built, they will corrupt it. It's the bloodlines that are the corruption in something that is freedom for all. They always will be. And that's what happened. I think that's what happened in the first place. The old bloodlines took over again. And that's when the whole thing went belly up. So this idea of freedom for all went kind of out of the window again in the selection process, as most of all, I would say. So, no, things are getting mixed up at the moment. You see structures, but you do not see the intentions in the structures, and the intention is the one that works things. And you need to see the intention clearly. The intention is in the Constitution of the of America. That was the intention. And that is not the intention of the bloodlines. That is to rule over. So there was supposed to be a new start that never happened. Now, or only happened for a very short time before the whole thing went into darkness again. The other thing David Icke talking about, and that is again talking about the compartmentalization in corporations. Here again, it looks the same, but it's not built with the same intention. Absolutely not with the same intention. The levels of knowledge in the corporations is to keep things secret. To build a power structure. Again, corporations are all about power, about ruling over, about having control. They very much copied the system of the secret societies, but with a completely different intention. As I said, in the secret society, it is there to preserve individuality. I'm sure of that. Not to preach down to the lower ranks, but to give them the freedom to develop themselves. Whereas it's exactly the same system, but there it is absolutely there to keep others in darkness. In the corporations, it's there to keep others in darkness. To create a power structure. Same structure, different intentions working in the structures will create a completely different outcome. But it's the intention that is important, that you need to see. And I don't think we're seeing the occult societies clearly just yet. We're mixing them up with what is happening in this world. I don't know how much influence the true Freemasons, the true occult societies, how much influence they actually still have in this world. Or to what amount there. As I said, the structure was taken over by those that would work it in the wrong way. So, these are things that we need. We need to separate the wheat from the tares. We absolutely must make clear separations of what it is we're looking at and stop mixing everything up. I mean, at the moment it is, every religion, every occult society mixed up with corporations, mixed up with, it is a mess. It is an absolute mess that has led to nothing but confusion. So, yeah, we really must separate the separate working parts, what they actually did, how they were structured, why were they structured in that way. Yeah, and what is the outcome of what is working inside of the structure. You know them by their fruit. The Freemason structure was there to bring out the divinity in man to benefit humanity. The structure of the corporations, the same structure, is there to rule over and to have dominion. And we really must make the separation. So, yes, I say we need to get real about this. We absolutely need to get out of other dimensions and come back to Earth. If that is what our future is going to be, then we need to get real about it and we need to get practical about it. Because, to be quite honest, this thing will build itself through us. We need to be the builders. We need to bring this to Earth. We need to build its structures. We need to do its works. It will not manifest by itself. The all works through us. Then we are the ones that must do it. So, we need two things. First of all, an understanding of what it is we are and what it is we're in, and that if we want a united world, then that needs to be everywhere. It was everywhere once, as I said, from east to west. Everybody sought the same thing. Bring that foundation back. And then think about structures, and look at structures that were already built, see what went wrong there, learn from our mistakes, and hopefully build back better. Yeah? Let us build back better. And then, I'm sure we make mistakes. We must allow for those mistakes. We must recognize them the moment. Again, this cannot be that it is untouchable. As soon as something goes wrong, it needs to be looked up there and then. Not give it 2,000 years to get into a complete mess before you do anything about it. Yeah? Yeah. That is what we must do. That is our works. That should be the works of this generation. We are the gods that should separate the wheat from the tares and start building a new structure. I wonder if that's ever going to happen. Not as long as people keep running around in other dimensions and not seeing what's happening right in front of their nose. Anyway, here, I leave it at that for today. And I'll talk to you again as soon as I can. I'll see you then. Bye.